Hi, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about why suffering opens our hearts and why it's actually a good thing, and it helps us develop our empathy, especially if you're white. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a book I'm reading called Nice Racism. And it's very interesting. It's about how white people, they want to be perceived as nice, they want to be perceived as open-minded to people from other races, but they don't truly understand or have empathy for their struggles. And so in the process of trying to protect their nice white identity, they're actually reinforcing the struggles of other races in society. At least that's what I've picked up from the book so far. I haven't finished it yet. And I wanted to talk about how when we suffer, it can be such a shameful experience, especially if you are somebody like me who meditates. You try to eat clean, you try to exercise, you've been to university, you are on this path where you're supposed to be successful, but then you experience failure. And it's like, especially if you're from a spiritual background, people might perceive any kind of failure or any kind of bad luck, including my experience being paralyzed, as something bad that you did in a past life, or something bad that you did in this life. And therefore, that's the karma that you received, that you get this suffering because you did something bad. And therefore, if anything bad ever happens, that's like a reason to be ashamed and a reason that you're not a good teacher or not very spiritual, and all these silly arguments that we come up with in our mind. That's just a myth right there, that I want to say that that's not true. And the gift that actually comes from suffering, and I think the reason why we do have so much suffering in life, is that it teaches us to open our hearts. Doesn't necessarily mean that we can't open them when we're not suffering, like it's not a requirement. But if suffering does come into your life, that's what it's there for, I think, to teach you to open your heart. And I think it's particularly valuable for white people to suffer, because we don't really get it. We don't understand what it's like for people of other races to suffer, especially if they're immigrants or coming into our country. We don't know what they've been through. And the more that we have our own suffering and our own challenges in our life, we might see that as our personal shortcomings or our failures, and we might sweep that under the rug, and we may not want to talk about it. But those things are actually what allow us to connect with people from different backgrounds and understand their struggles and their suffering, as if we're open and vulnerable about ours. And I think we get really scared sometimes to share that openly, because we're scared we're going to be attacked for our beliefs. I've certainly experienced that on and off in my life, but I've also learned that I can't live in fear of that all the time, that it's more important for me to be true to myself and to share my truth, because other people need to hear my truth, and that helps them heal. And that's more important than whatever random person is going to disagree. I've just got to ignore that and keep going and keep sharing my wisdom. So I hope that makes sense. I'm still learning. I'm still reading this Nice Racism book, and it's just blowing my mind. It's such a good book, and I'm beginning to realize all the little ways and all the little things that I grew up with, that white people were accidentally perpetuating racism without realizing it and trying to be nice. So I may have more to talk about on that book. But that's what I'm going to start with for now, is that our suffering, those things that we're really ashamed of, can actually be the thing that opens our hearts, and actually be the thing that allows us to empathize with people who are different races than us. And maybe that helps us to be anti-racist. But having said that, if you want to be anti-racist, as it says in the book, you have to constantly work at it and constantly reflect to make sure that you're not accidentally falling into destructive patterns of racism as a white person without realizing it. I hope you all enjoyed this lesson. I know it was a little bit complex, and this book that I'm reading is very complex, and I'm really enjoying it and getting a lot out of it. And I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Take care. Bye now.